Greetings, how is everybody doing? This is Coach Fleischer, and in this presentation we are talking main muscle groups. There are so many different ways to break up the human body and break up into different parts and ways to work out and different styles, etc. And many times it's better off just to start with the basics first. What are the main muscle groups you're going to be working? Sure, we're taxing the entire human organism as a whole, right? A la general adaptation syndrome, but understand that you can kind of focus on different areas, and sometimes it helps to be able to see these different areas and break out the particulars for each one. One really simple and easy way to do this is alphabetically: arms, back, chest, core, legs, shoulders. As a matter of fact, I've done entire workouts for a 2-month mesocycle for 8 weeks where I did arms one day, back the next day, chest another day, core another day, legs another day, shoulders, day off. Arms, back, chest, core, legs, shoulders, day off. And I did that for week by week by week for 2 months, and it was great. So you don't have to always be stuck in a double split routine where you're doing biceps and back, or biceps and chest, and then you're doing triceps and back together. You don't have to do that at all. But as a practitioner, this is all trying to give you like a framework to have different ways to be creative in designing your workouts. And when you look at the different body parts, you kind of break them out. This is pretty intuitive, right? But I like to go over this anyways, just to kind of set the foundation. Arms, real basic. You have biceps in the front, you got triceps on the back, and you have forearms, right? Those are your big three. Then on the back, you have latissimus dorsi, the lats, the rhomboids, which are in between your shoulder blades, erector spinae, and then those guys run on either side of the spine. Are actually a series of all interconnected muscles that all work together to help you stay erect in the spine, hence the name erector spinae. With the chest, you have pectoralis major and pectoralis minor to a lesser degree, and oftentimes people think they're doing one like exercise for pec minor, and really they're not even close. But realize in this in a slider, you have 3 main muscles, right? Main muscle groups. You have arms, back, and chest, but those can then be subdivided into other muscles. And then if we go a little bit further into this, the other half, for the core, oh my goodness, how many different core exercises can you do, right? So you have rectus abdominis, that's that 6-pack up front, the muscles up front. And then you have obliques and erector spinae on the back. And I use that in 2 different areas because it can kind of be put in with the back, or it can be put in with the core. With the legs, glutes, you got the powerhouse in the back side of the body, the quadriceps up front, and the hamstrings and back, as well as the calves. So here you are, you can kind of break out your leg days into multiple body parts. With the shoulders, you have delts, deltoids, so named because they look like a big D on the shoulder there, and then you have rotator cuff group and other small stabilizers within the shoulder itself. And boy, you can find a number of different ways outside of just shoulder press to work the delts. Let's go and bump this over to the next one. So when you look at different exercises for each, and some of this you probably already know, but when you're working arms on Friday, like everybody does on National Arm Day, you have dumbbell bicep curls, dumbbell tricep extensions. You have cable crossover bicep curls and cable crossover tricep extension. So notice you can still work biceps, whether it's on a cable crossover or using dumbbells or a straight bar or band. You're just changing the modality, and we'll talk about that a little bit further in this class. And so you have now 2 different exercises for each one for arms. Bump that out into back. With lats, you have a lat pull down wide grip, lat pull down narrow grip. You can do pull-ups, chin-ups, etc. Seated row, and with seated row, cable crossover or machine, you can use wide grip or narrow grip. Should change the emphasis as you see fit. And you can do a dumbbell 1-arm row, or you can even use a cable crossover 1-arm row, right? So there's many different ways to hit back, and believe me, with these different muscle groups, this is not exhaustive. There are so many different ways to do this. Chest, for example, dumbbell bench press, barbell bench press, or push-ups. You can juxtaposition that with what people like to do in terms of alternative exercises for chest. You could do dumbbell incline press, barbell incline press, or push-ups on a slight decline, so you get the same effect in terms of hitting the upper fibers on the chest. Or you can even use a cable crossover, for example, and configure the arms or the pulleys in a manner where you're pushing up much like you would with a regular dumbbell bench press. And I like that as a variation in terms of using a cable crossover or other pieces of equipment in a very traditional type of exercise as a means to inject a little bit of creativity, but also to challenge the body a little bit and stimulate the human organism just a little bit differently than you would with regular old dumbbell bench press or barbell bench press. Legs, oh my goodness, there's so many ones you can do. But so leg press or squats, right? Can be barbell, dumbbell, or other. Those are pretty simple ones to look at. Lunges, now you becomes a single leg exercise, and you could have lunges that are static, meaning in place, a squat lunge, or you can do transitional type lunges where you're doing a walking lunge going forward, a reverse lunge going backwards, a 45-degree lunge stepping outward to the side and forward, which I like to do with my wrestlers. You can do this with a barbell or with a dumbbell, and there are variations where you can use a band and you're pushing actually up and back against resistance as opposed to just pushing up against the effects of gravity. And we'll talk about vectors of gravity later on in this class. Leg curls. You have leg curls versus a stiff-legged deadlift. And if you've done either one of these, you know with the leg curl exercise, you're either laying flat or seated. You could do this with a machine or a dumbbell in between the soles of the feet, and you're doing knee flexion extension over and over. A stiff-legged deadlift, the knee is not moving. It's actually in a fixed position, not fully locked out, but fixed. And you're hinging at the hip to activate the hamstring. So it's a little different way to hit the hamstrings. Leg extension is pretty straightforward. You're seated, doing leg extension, with the knee completing knee extension to flexion, knee extension to flexion. And with that, you can do single leg or double leg. With any of the exercises that we're talking about, you can do different variations like that, unilateral, bilateral type workout. With shoulders, oh my goodness, you think about the different planes of movement the shoulders can work in, and that's the trade-off with the shoulders, right? They're very unstable in terms of joints, but they're very mobile. And so as a result of that mobility, you're able to do a number of different exercises to hit the shoulders. The granddaddy of them all is like a dumbbell shoulder press or a barbell shoulder press. Machine shoulder press is another one. I like doing dumbbell side raise or cable crossover side raise. I think those are both great. Matter of fact, I'll do exercise where I have both. Well, I have a cable in one hand and a dumbbell in the other, and I'm doing what's called unilateral resistance curves, which we'll get into later on. Front raise with a rope and front raise with dumbbells, another real easy one. With core, so now we're into the C's here, and in core, crunches, very rectus abdominis. You got a rectus spinae for the hyperextensions, and then just plank in terms of doing straight out core work. When you think about the midsection itself, there are many different ways to hit the midsection, whether it's the obliques, rectus abdominis, or rectus spinae, or any combination thereof. Trunk flexion, trunk extension, lateral flexion extension, as well as torso rotation. So this I did specifically for workout examples, and by no means is this gospel where you should follow this as a workout. But if you look at this from one column on the left to one column on the right, you have an exercise and its variation. A dumbbell bicep curl, a cable crossover bicep curl, a cable crossover tricep pushdown, a dumbbell tricep extension, right? So you can kind of compare those side by side by side by side by side by side by side. And this one should be incline push-up. My apologies, I missed that one there. Leg press, squats, leg curls, stiff-legged. So you kind of juxtaposition those two, and you can do in your workouts themselves variations of a crunch and variations of a plank. So what I want to get across is when you get deeper into this class and you look at different ways to kind of like break out your workouts, you start to reflect back on this, your big six, right? And then as we'll see in another presentation, we'll talk about the main movement patterns that the body has. And now you can start to put together how you can have these workouts put together and how you can structure them over time. But that, my friends, is for another presentation. Have a good one. I'm signing off.